Alright, let's do this. There's been a lot of talk about SPRs, Mark 12s, GPRs, whatever stupid acronym you want to come up with, and their role for the Minuteman, or for the M word. And people are acting like these rifles have some kind of superpower. And that's just not the case. So I'm here to inject a little bit of reality into your situation. Now, I've shot MK12s and similar type rifles out to 1,200 yards. I've also been a precision rifle instructor back before the I instructed regularly. I shot a lot of PRS matches, sniper matches, so on and so forth, long before even PRS was a thing. But a lot of the classes that I've taught precision rifle in were quote unquote run what you brung type classes. And there's a lot of merit to the Mark 12, the SPR. And the whole concept in the last video that I watched that was linked about the gun you have is better than the gun at home. That rings true. And absolutely, hits can be made out to 1,000 yards with 77 grain Sierra Match Kings. There's lots of videos of people doing this. Instructors are teaching people how to do it. But the truth is, that's only done on the nice days, on nice square ranges, with nice, bright, white painted steel targets that don't move. So let's look at this in a realistic light. In favorable conditions, most intermediate shooters are going to struggle, even with 77 grain, to make consistent first round hits beyond 600 yards with a Mark 12. At 1,000 yards, with a 10-mile-an-hour full value wind, there's 158 inches of drift with the 77 grain Sierra out of a SPR. Think about that. But you slow that wind down to 8 miles an hour, just a 2 mile per hour difference. It becomes 125 inches of drift. And that is in standard atmosphere. So you're going to have over 30 inches of drift change with a 2 mile an hour shift. Now, there's a lot of awesome shooters, even the guy in the linked video. But they're not going to be able to discern across field conditions the difference between an 8 mile an hour and a 10 mile an hour wind change. It's just not going to happen. Anybody that tells you that they can consistently discern that wind velocity at that range and make first round hits with an SPR, they're a liar. All there is to it. Because you're expecting more from the tool than it was designed to do. And I'm not bashing the round. I'm not bashing the rifle or the concept. But I think we need to have a realistic view of what it is and what it's designed to do. So with that out of the way, some realistic statistics and actual field experience, which I have, we need to get this out of the way. The Mark 12 and 77 grain Sierra Match Kings, the Black Hills MK262 load. It does not fill the role of a quote-unquote sniper. If you need that capability, pick a different weapon. The MK12 does shine in specific instances. You're pretty capable at medium ranges with it. And it's also capable of a rifle that can be used for quote-unquote assaulting. And it's interchangeable with most AR-15s. But let's be honest. The true capability of the Mark 12 isn't in the barrel length or the special purpose receiver. It's in the optic and the ammunition. And with the trend toward higher power LPVOs, you just put that same ammo in their recce gun with a 1-6, 1-8, and you end up with 99% of the usefulness of the SPR with the Mark 12. Hell, I took a 14.5 with a Vortex Razor 1-6 to a scoped rifle class taught by a famous instructor who was actually involved in the invention of the Mark 12. When I showed up, I was told this gun is going to kind of lack and I'm going to miss the longer range shots. I was the only person there that made cold bore shots beyond 700 yards, including the instructor. Just saying. So instead of having the special rifle that weighs more, that's heavier and awkward, maybe, just maybe, an extra scope or a LPVO and good ammo does 90% of it right there. Full stop. And you're less hindered with the normal infantry roles that you're going to take on as part of one of these groups. You know what's more important than any of it? Fucking training. Most of these guys that are pushing for this stuff, they're not going to show you videos of them going out there and shooting it, doing it, and doing the things. Kind of makes you question it, right? So that now that we've described that it's the optic that makes it easier for you to shoot further, and the ammunition that is the true gem, not the rifle, the first thing people are going to say is, oh, you need that extra barrel length. Well, I've actually chronographed all that. The difference between a 16-inch and an 18-inch, it's usually less than 50 feet per second with a Black Hills load. In fact, I've seen 16 inches that were fast barrels that outran 18-inch barrels that were on the slow end of things. It's pretty common, actually, and the difference in range, it's really not all that much. Oh, range. Let's talk about range. We're going to talk about it being an effective 1,000-yard round. No, absolutely not. In fact, in standard atmosphere, even the Black Hills load, the MK262, it goes transonic, right around 815 yards. 815 yards. That's when your accuracy starts to go to crap with that round and that rifle. So the idea that you're going to be actually making effective hits at 1,000 yards, you might get lucky and get those in there. We already talked about the wind drift being a major obstacle. But it's just not going to happen. If you're anticipating that you need to lay down effective fire at those ranges, maybe, just maybe, it's the wrong tool for the job. And the 16-inch and the 14.5s, they're gonna pull the roll up to 800 yards with the proper optics and ammunition. The next thought process is, people want to talk about the M word, those groups. and their role within one, and how you need these kind of rifles for that. And it's important to have interchangeability with all your other people. Magazines and ammo. Well, if you put 55 grain in it, you're not really any better than the next guy. But is all that stuff actually important? Because even the guys that are saying this, they're not part of one of those M-word groups. If they were, they'd be telling you about it. They'd be showing you. I might have been involved in some of those groups in the past. And actually, it's kind of hard to get more than 4 to 6, maybe 8 people out to actually train outside of annual FTXs. So, if that's what you're counting on, and you're basing your weapon around what this M-word is going to use, maybe re-examine your priorities. Because most guys in their mid to late 30s that have families, it's just not happening. Let's be realistic here. So, effective tools for the job at hand, rather than compatibility with people that you're never going to actually be around in that situation. So, lethality. Everybody's going to say, well, I don't want to go down range and get shot by one of those at 1,000 yards. I'm not going to stand there and let somebody shoot at me. Nope, no one's going to. In fact, most people are going to be camouflaged, and they're going to be moving. You combine that with that 158 inches of wind drift, and targets that are moving and hiding. The SPR does not fill that role very well. It is not a sniper rifle. And most people have only shot white, steel, stationary targets at that range with that configuration. I might have partaken in shooting certain rodent-like creatures with SPRs at those kind of distances. And I'm going to tell you, hit percentages pretty rare. Even on a windy day, steel. And maybe 30% hit ratio at 1,000 yards. Now on calm days, yeah, I can get 75%. It's not a big deal. But those are bright white painted steel targets that don't move. You're not going to be effective in real field conditions with an SPR at those ranges. End of discussion. But what about the lethality? Shooting those rodent-like creatures with exploding ballistic tips designed to fragment on thin-skinned animals still pencil holes through. As a matter of fact, the 77 grain Sierra, it's not going to open up at all at that range. And it's going to be traveling well below the speed of sound. It's going to be traveling around 900 feet per second or less, depending on the atmosphere. And some of you guys know what I've done as far as professionally treating gunshot wounds. They're not going to do much. Yeah, you might change somebody's attitude. Nobody wants a hole in them. I've been involved in situations where I've treated people that were shot with 22 caliber rifles at close range or 22 caliber handguns, and they still had fight in them by the time they made it to the trauma center. I have seen 2 people shot in the heart where the round failed to penetrate the chambers, landed strictly in the muscle tissue, and they fought a long time not even knowing they were hit. So if you actually need to be effective, put somebody down quickly at those kind of ranges, an SPR is not the tool. You can say, well, I'm going to take the buddy out of the fight. And 3 or 4 guys are going to have to help take care of him. Maybe if he even knows he's hit. But there again, is that an 8-mile-an-hour wind or a 10-mile-an-hour wind? Either way, you're going to miss. And then finally, this dude that was in the linked video, the whole time he's talking about not repeating shit you hear on the internet. Right? Then he goes on to say, more deer have been killed with a .22 long rifle than any other caliber. Well, for one, .22 long rifle is not a caliber, it's a cartridge. But he has absolutely zero way to qualify that statement. That is one of those things people repeat on the internet that they can't prove. And they've never actually investigated that. So the assumption is that it's poachers doing it. And poachers shine a light in the eyes of a deer at night and shoot them with a .22 rifle. That actually doesn't really happen that much. That hasn't happened in years. And for that to have been the most popular means of taking them is another thing. In fact, in the last 20 years, poaching is pretty minuscule. But people that are taking wild game legally, taking deer legally, far outnumbers the poachers. In fact, every year in the United States, between 6 million and 14 million deer are killed. And according to surveys, 4 cartridges, not calibers, cartridges, make up 90% of the deer kills. .308 Winchester, 30-06 Springfield, .270 Winchester, and following next, .30-30 Winchester. 90% are killed with those rounds, not the .22. Between 6 and 14 million a year. Do you really think there's 14 million deer a year killed with a .22? Horse shit. Oh, but my shot placement, you put it in the right spot, it'll kill them. Yeah, it will. How good are you at doing that at 1,000 yards with a transonic round that has already gone unstable because of the transonic barrier that has 158 inches of 10-mile-an-hour wind drift at that range? Are you really good at putting that round where it needs to go? The guy in the video, he's not either. And if he tells you he is, hey, he's a bad mofo. He's done a lot of things that I've never done. But he can't do that. End of discussion. So while the cool guy thing is suddenly SPRs, think about what you actually need them to do before you go and invest a lot of money. When you might have a recce rifle or a 16-inch gun, that you can increase your capability to fill that role. Maybe with just an ammunition change, or at most, an ammunition and optic change. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Quit believing the BS. Live in the real world. Bye for now.